Did you know that Namibia, a unique country located in the arid African continent, embodies two almost unbelievable extremes? This nation possesses more than 11% of the world's uranium reserves and some of the largest offshore diamond mines on Earth. Yet on land, only 2% of its territory is suitable for agriculture. Meanwhile, the Namib Desert, one of the driest regions on the planet, continues to advance, gradually consuming land that is already increasingly depleted. Namibia seemed to be running out of options. Then, an unexpected solution emerged from the cold depths of the ocean: seaweed. So what did seaweed do? Can this seemingly fragile marine plant truly save a country suffering from extreme dryness? All will be revealed by Terran works in this video. When people think of the harshest places on Earth, they often picture the scorching Sahara or the icy Gobi. Yet in southwestern Africa lies a land even more extreme than both: the Namib Desert, a landscape that has shaped the entire climate of Namibia. Stretching over 2,000 kilometers along the Atlantic coast, the Namib receives almost no rain year-round, with annual precipitation of just 2 to 10 millimeters, far less than the Sahara and dramatically lower than the Gobi. Towering sand dunes rising nearly 300 meters high, combined with daytime temperatures that can exceed 45 degrees Celsius before plunging below 10 degrees Celsius after sunset, create an environment at the very edge of survival. The Namib is not just a desert, it is the desert of deserts. In such harsh climatic conditions, the story of agriculture in Namibia has become more worrying than ever. Although deserts do not cover the entire country, the remaining land is hardly more livable. Only 2% of the national territory has sufficient water for cultivation, an extremely small figure for a country spanning nearly 824,000 kilometers squares. Most rivers here appear only after heavy rainfall, which is exceedingly rare. For many months of the year, they are nothing more than dry riverbeds, offering no value for agricultural production. Namibia still practices farming, but only on a sparse scale and in complete dependence on natural conditions. The agricultural sector is currently capable of supporting only about 25 to 40% of the population, while the population itself grows at an average rate of 2% per year. This means that food demand continues to rise, while the amount of arable land remains almost unchanged. With population growth outpacing the expansion of cultivable land, Namibia has no choice but to find ways to transform barren land into fertile soil. Failing to do so, the country's agricultural sector will soon face the risk of collapse. You know, while Namibia's mainland is so arid that it is nearly impossible to cultivate, just offshore lies one of the most nutrient-rich marine ecosystems on the planet: the cold Benguela current. This current carries vast amounts of minerals and nutrients up from the ocean floor, nourishing an entire kingdom of seaweed stretching along the southern African coast. And it is precisely this place, seemingly unrelated to agriculture, that opens up an unexpected lifeline for the parched land inland. Seaweed grows extremely fast, absorbing minerals from the water and accumulating a remarkable store of natural nutrients, from potassium and calcium to rare trace elements that Namibia's soils are severely lacking. When harvested, composted, and processed properly, seaweed becomes a nutrient-rich organic fertilizer capable of restoring degraded soils, improving water retention, and reactivating microbial life. From this, an unforeseen solution emerges: reviving the land with seaweed. When the idea of bringing life from the sea onto land was first proposed, many people in Namibia were skeptical. But just a few years later, what was once dismissed as vague and unrealistic has become a fully operational model, with real infrastructure, real people, and kelp forests growing larger every day. Off the coast of the town of Luderitz, the company Kelp deployed its first cultivation rafts, marking the beginning of Namibia's large-scale underwater forest farming model. Each kelp garden is anchored by submerged mooring lines, forming a stable structure that allows seaweed to grow vertically throughout the water column and fully absorb the abundant nutrients carried by the cold Benguela current. This is considered the first industrial-scale kelp farming model on the entire African continent. On a weekly basis, teams of marine engineers and divers inspect growth rates, trim mature sections, and bring them aboard harvesting vessels. The kelp is then transported directly to shore the same day to prevent natural decomposition caused by prolonged exposure to air. At the processing facility in Luderitz, all raw material is thoroughly washed, finely ground, and fed into a biological fermentation system. From there, the kelp is separated into specialized product streams: biological extract solutions, biostimulants for agriculture, microorganic formulations to improve soil structure, and carbon-rich biological byproducts serving industrial uses and CO2 storage. Crucially, this process does not degrade marine ecosystems, as the model harvests only mature portions of kelp, much like pruning trees in a forest. In addition, all farming activities are conducted outside sensitive habitats to avoid impacts on native marine wildlife. As of 2024, Kelp Blue has deployed more than 30 hectares of kelp farms and aims to expand to 6,400 hectares in the next phase, laying the foundation for Namibia's first ocean agriculture industry. When the first batches of seaweed were fermented, processed, and returned to the fields, Namibian farmers could hardly believe their eyes. Lands once cracked and barren from drought began to change color. The pale, compacted soil became looser and retained moisture for longer periods. After just 2 to 3 growing seasons, experimental farms recorded yield increases ranging from 25% to over 60%, depending on the crop. Varieties once considered nearly impossible to grow, such as maize, millet, and leafy vegetables, began to take root, thrive, and produce stable yields. Crop failure rates dropped sharply even in years of extremely low rainfall, a rare outcome in a country where many regions receive only 2 to 10 millimeters of rain annually. Not only crops transformed, the soil ecosystem itself came back to life. Microbial activity surged, earthworms reappeared, and clear signs emerged that the soil had genuinely regenerated. On a broader scale, farming models using seaweed-based fertilizers are helping Namibia reduce its dependence on costly imported chemical fertilizers. Some projects have recorded input cost reductions of 30 to 50%, opening a vision of a more sustainable agricultural future, right in a land once considered uninhabitable. From the cold Benguela Ocean to the cracked fields inland, seaweed has become an unexpected green miracle, bringing harvests back to a nation standing on the edge of widespread desertification. Are you curious which type of seaweed could possibly be powerful enough to revive a land as dry and unforgiving as Namibia? Among dozens of seaweed species that could be harvested, Namibia chose giant kelp, a kelp species scientifically known as Macrocystis pyrifera. It is one of the fastest-growing organisms on the planet, capable of reaching heights of 50 to 60 meters and forming vast underwater forests along the coast. So why giant kelp? What makes this species the key to soil restoration lies in its exceptionally rich nutritional structure. Giant kelp contains more than 60 trace minerals, a wide range of amino acids, bioactive compounds that stimulate plant growth, and easily decomposable forms of organic carbon. When processed into compost, it improves soil structure, enhances water retention, boosts microbial activity, and reduces the need for chemical fertilizers, factors that are especially critical for a country where only about 2% of the land is suitable for cultivation. Thanks to the nutrient-rich, cold Benguela current, giant kelp can grow up to 30 centimeters per day, creating a nearly limitless renewable resource. For Namibia, giant kelp is not just seaweed. It is the foundation of an entirely new agricultural model, one in which dead soil can be brought back to life by the power of the ocean itself. Offshore seaweed farms along the Namibian coast are far more than simple production sites for fertilizer. When scaled up to an industrial level, they transform into true underwater forests, massive kelp ecosystems that function like ecological conductors of the ocean. In the cold waters of the Benguela current, kelp can grow by up to 60 centimeters per day, forming towering trunks that rise from the seafloor to the surface, stretching tens of meters high. Much like forests on land, these kelp forests absorb CO2, provide shelter for fish, shellfish, and countless microorganisms, and trap nutrients that would otherwise be swept away into the deep ocean. As a result, a rich ecological corridor takes shape just beneath the waves, a development that is opening new possibilities for marine tourism in Namibia, where diving through kelp forests could become a truly unique experience in Africa. However, as this model gains praise as a potential climate breakthrough, controversy has begun to surface in the United States and Europe. Many environmental organizations are questioning whether kelp forests can genuinely store carbon at a meaningful scale, or whether they are merely a form of greenwashing used by companies to market carbon credits. Some experts argue that not all of the carbon absorbed by seaweed is permanently retained. Much of it may be released back into the environment as the kelp naturally decomposes, while only a small fraction actually sinks to the seafloor and becomes buried long-term. Amid this skepticism, Namibia sees one certainty. Even as the climate debate continues, these underwater forests are already delivering nutrients to the ocean, jobs to local communities, and raw materials to revive fields long left barren. And with every new hectare of kelp growing offshore near Lüderitz, another door of hope opens for an exhausted land on the brink. The transformation driven by seaweed does not stop in Namibia. On the eastern side of the continent, Kenya and Tanzania are also undergoing a quiet but profound change powered by this humble marine plant. In coastal villages of Kenya such as Mkwiro and Kibuyuni, where agriculture had been crippled by years of prolonged drought, communities began cultivating seaweed in the early 2000s. What started as a few small hanging lines near the shore gradually expanded, and by 2022, Kenya harvested nearly 100 tons of seaweed, generating more than $30,000 USD in income, revenue that had previously been unimaginable. Dried seaweed is processed into food powders, soap, shampoo, and even exported to China, France, and the United States, creating an entirely new economic sector within some of the poorest coastal communities. In Tanzania, the scale is even more striking. The country is now the third largest seaweed producer in Africa, with around 25,000 farmers involved, most of them women. Seaweed accounts for nearly 90% of the nation's total fisheries export value, becoming a lifeline for tens of thousands of families as farmland degrades and job opportunities shrink. In just a few years, once impoverished fishing villages have evolved into seaweed processing hubs, generating thousands of jobs in cosmetics, food production, and bio-based products. What stands out is that neither Kenya nor Tanzania possesses favorable conditions for traditional agriculture. Yet through seaweed, a plant that requires no soil, no fresh water, only the sea and sunlight, communities threatened by climate change have discovered a new path to livelihood and resilience. Seaweed not only helps revive degraded land, but is also emerging as a new solution in the fight against plastic pollution in many African countries, including Namibia. Each year, large amounts of plastic waste continue to wash ashore, despite the country having banned plastic straws since 2024 and single-use plastic bottles from 2025. In this context, seaweed is seen as a promising alternative material. Scientists from Flinders University, Australia, and the German technology company CH Bioforce have developed a bio-based coating made from sodium alginate extracted from seaweed, which is fully biodegradable in nature while offering oil resistance, water resistance, and heat tolerance comparable to petroleum-based plastics, with the aim of replacing plastic coatings in food packaging. From fields cracked by drought to towering columns of seaweed swaying in the cold Benguela current, Namibia shows that hope sometimes comes from the most unexpected places. A country with only 2% of its land suitable for farming has found its solution not on land, but in the ocean that surrounds it. What do you think about this approach? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Terran Works to explore more stories like this.